Hello everybody, ciao a tutti and welcome to Art with Ms.B. Today we're going to spend some time together in a beautiful design. This design is based on a very cold color palette, so we're gonna use like a medium dark blue, a blue gray and a light blue gray. So we intentionally create a specific mood on our paper. It is inspired by the moon in a very abstract way. What can you gain from this practice? Several things. So first, you're going to give yourself some time to focus and be present to your own body and your own experience. Find yourself a comfortable position while you practice with me, and follow the steps. Focus on your breathing, deep, intentional, in and out from the nose, so you kind of bring attention truly to your movement, the movement of your hands on the paper, and to your physical sensation. Second, a little more like a knowledge and understanding of how cold the colors work together. So we are working on analogous color, which are colors that sit next to each other in the color wheel, and what type of feeling, mood and sensations we can have when we use those type of colors in an artwork. Second, you will learn you will improve and boost your fine motor skills, because there will be different type of lines included, plus the coloring, which is always a good opportunity, right, to keep our fine motor skills sharp. This is a practice that anyone can do, regardless your age, artistic skills, artistic background. You can follow the steps and you will do just fine. The result might be a little different according to your age, right, and to your skill levels, but the process, which is it's the true important things in these videos and the practice, the process is valuable for everybody. And remember, my friends, I always say this in school to my students, and I will always repeat it, and I will stress this concept. The process is way more valuable than the product. We should not do art just because we want to have the perfect product that can check all the boxes and we can compare with somebody else or something that we saw online or in images or etc. That is a good opportunity to exercise your fine motor skills, period. There is no other learning and connection that will happen unless you expand your practice and you stay focused on every single step of it, from the first one to the last, with an open mind, an open heart, truly focus on what you're doing and completely relaxed with no stress about what is going to happen at the end in my paper. Okay, for this practice, you need your art journal or a mixed media paper, a pencil for drawing, extra fine black Sharpies, regular point black Sharpies, or any brand that you have available. I'm going to use my Shadow Art alcohol markers that you can buy on Amazon, but you can use any alcohol markers. And if you do not have alcohol markers, you can be creative and use what you have at home. Regular markers, different colors, coloring pencil, you do you, because once again, we focus on the process, right? So the product can be a little different. You can use an object to trace a circle, because we need to trace a circle inside the rectangles, and that's it. I'm gonna switch the camera so we can start. Remember to subscribe to my channel, ask me questions, let me know in the comment, and just, give yourself a weekly or bi-weekly time to practice art, because you will truly notice benefits if you do this consistently for some months. Okay, I'm going to switch so we can finally start. Ciao. Okay, guys, this is my paper. Before doing my usual frame with a square, I'm going to center my ball. The ones, you can use a plate, you can use any tools that you want. We're gonna carefully trace this circle. If you want, you can do it first with a pencil and then with a Sharpie, or you can do directly with a marker. Okay, now I'm going to frame my design as I usually do, but this time, as you can see, my frame is way bigger, so we have a little less space because I need some background for this circle. Now, inside our circle, inside our moon, we are going to add some shapes, organic shapes. So do not overthink it, and you don't have to do your shapes exactly as I do. We're gonna leave a little gap between these shapes and just be creative and just feel this space that you have available in the moon. You can vary like the size of the shapes. Use them to fulfill this space. If you feel that you want to do this step with the pencil before doing with the markers, I should have seen it before, you can absolutely do that. Perfect. And then in the background, we're going to use the same Sharpie. We're going to start from these lines. We're going to do like straight line, come in from behind the moon. Leave a generous gap, a generous space between those lines. Then we can put this one away. I'm going to start with my first color. I'm going to use a blue, gray, and I will actually use the big tip because I will feel this space, these shapes inside. Be careful, stay in the shapes. If you go out by accident, it doesn't really affect the benefit of the practice. So maybe you can just again take the black marker again and retouch and make the outline of that shape a little thicker. Okay. If you have like a regular tip markers, it might take a little longer. You can always pause the video, complete these steps, and then resume and keep going together. I always like, I don't tell every time because otherwise my introduction would be a little too long, and I try my best to keep it short because I know that people want everything pretty fast, but the problem is that sometimes, we truly need to spend some time in talking about concept and decision and choices that we make on this paper, and why I introduce you some design versus others, and what should we use a media. I would say a medium, sorry. I would say that these videos are recorded and they're here for you. So you need to find a way that works for you. For example, there are some people who like to watch the whole videos, maybe speeding it up a little bit, so they have an idea of all the steps and the sequence, right? And then they can practice at their own convenience by just keeping the images of my final product in front of them. There are some other people instead that truly need to practice with me along the way, and I suggest this if you're very young, if you're not very experienced, and you truly need to be guided step by step. So you want to see the action on the paper, but you also need to listen to the instructions, right? And that is also a method that I use in school, depending of the project that I have to do and the grade that I'm teaching, right? So I can support my students in different way. There are some people that don't have too much time, right, to spend during the week. So they want to if you want to make room for practice, and a video is a little longer that you can spend on the paper, remember that you can always divide the practice in two parts. In the first one, you can do the design and start the coloring, and in the second one, you can finish the coloring and the final details, right? So you will have your bi-weekly practice ready for you, and you can still give yourself a moment to practice some art, which is truly beneficial for so many reasons. We were just recently talking about this during teacher-parent conference, and I'm so grateful that some parents truly understand the importance of art and why do we study art in school, which is not in primary and secondary. I'm talking about it's not to train a professional artist. If you're meant to become a professional artist, you will keep doing your training in post-secondary education, and if you're meant to be one, you will be one. But we do teach art in school because it helps us with so many skills, right? From coordination, brain to hand, fine motor skills that mostly these generations that are so always so involved with technology and always working in their computer in school and outside the school, they are risking to of losing those skills, and we should never lose those skills. It will be really truly detrimental, truly bad for us as humanity. So first, that is the benefit: fine motor skills, coordination skills, and then there are so many decisions that we have to make on the piece of paper, right? So the critical thinking skills that allow us to think and understand if this is what I want to create, what should I do? What steps should I take? What media should I use? Once I selected that, other questions come up. How can I use this media? So a lot of experiment, right? A lot of mistakes and failure. Some of these mistakes will turn into unexpected success because you truly love the result of this, accident, if you want to call it that way. Some other instead will teach us the lesson, what we need to do differently. So there is a lot of critical thinking involved with that, right? Now that I feel this space, I'm going to switch it to a light gray blue, and I'm going to fulfill inside these gaps. Sorry, I was switching the markers. For this one, probably I'm gonna use my fine tip. It's extremely light gray and it's extremely cold gray. So as I was saying, a lot of critical thinking skills involved in art, problem solving, because sometimes the things don't go as we planned on the paper, but we don't toss, we don't throw away, right? The paper, we look at that and we say, how can I embrace these unexpected details that happen on my paper or in my sculpture? So it's an important, these are life lessons, my friends. These are lessons that you will carry on outside of the class, outside of the art studio. This is how you will learn how to face other projects, other adversity, other challenges that life will present you, because this is how we grow. And also art teaches us to celebrate mistakes, because mistakes is when we truly, truly, truly learn. There is no other way, there is no better way. And we need to celebrate those mistakes. We need to embrace them as a part of the process. As teacher, we should really change the way that we assess the students and value and treasure this moment when the students explore, experiment, make mistakes, and how the students react to those mistakes. So what solution he or she will come up with. And finally, art is truly beneficial for our emotional health. So when we practice art, we are truly focused on what we are doing on the paper. Therefore, we are truly present on our own life experience. We are not thinking about what happened before, what will happen after. We are truly committed and connected with this design that is happening in this very moment. So this is also something that is truly beneficial for people who struggle with ADHD, with anxiety, and in general. Even if we don't struggle, we need to support our mental sanity. Now I'm going to use different type of blue to color these sections, medium and dark, nothing light at all over here. I want this to be pretty intense. You can repeat the same color over and over. Just don't repeat it next to each other, but leave some space. You can create a sort of a pattern with color. Use the blues that you have available. If you're using a shadow art marker, so you should be, depending on how big is the box that you both, but you should have at least 3 or 4, if not more, blues. Okay, remember also that if you have a blue and a gray and you want to create a different blue, like a tone of a blue, you can do blue and then go over with gray, and you will have another tone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe I'm gonna repeat it here. Even when I do these passages, you don't have to copy exactly what I do. If you prefer, to have this happen, don't worry about it. You will see at the end that we are not gonna see it. And this is just an example, right? That, oh, I did a little like imperfection and a little mistakes, and it's okay. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna trust the process, enjoy the process, and see the end of this design. Now I'm going to alternate with a lighter blue. And now that I started to see these blues happening next to this very cold, too cold gray, you can start to ask yourself, how do I feel about this palette? Do I like it? Do I feel comfortable by looking at? Maybe I don't like it that much. I rather use other palettes when I paint and color. Ask yourself questions, critical questions. So, do I like more when the blue is very, very dark or when it's lighter? Does it make me feel comfortable and settled, or it makes me feel a little uncomfortable maybe, or a little unsettled? Let's see, we try this Prussian blue. And as I said before, if you need a little extra time to color, it's okay. Pause the video, catch up with me, and then you keep playing it. Do not rush yourself, never. Do not expect from you that you have to go to the same pace than somebody else is going. You need to respect your own pace, and you need to fully understand what you're doing and experience it properly. Switching again. I wanted to use this dark blue palette to symbolize the sky at night, which become dark and colder, right? Completely opposite to the sky during the day, because it is a moon and the moon comes during the night. I wanted to abstractly, so in a not a realistic way, I wanted to represent the sky at night. Then I got my final blue, and if you have more spaces to fill, you can repeat the same blue for more than one time if you want, or you can add a few more blues if you need to. Once again, remember, respect the way that your design is on your paper. Follow the steps, but with the freedom and the feeling that you can adjust, change, and connect it to your own design in your own personal way. Now we are done with the colors. We're going to grab an extra fine Sharpies or any brand that you have available, and we are going to start to fill our project with patterns. So the first thing that I will do, I will start with these tiny curved lines, and here is when you need to be patient. So in this very moment, we are going to exercise resilience, patience, right? Because you will need to repeat the same element over and over. We're gonna curve these lines, and we're gonna fill out the path, like this gap between the biomorphic shapes. Okay, so the closer you do the lines, the better. If you're very, very like a young artist, you're just barely starting with art, if you want to do them with pencil and then you will go over with the Sharpie, it's gonna take a long time. I anticipate that, but if it works for you, feel free to do it. Otherwise, you can go slower. You don't have to follow my pace, but find yourself a pace that works for you. Not too slow, not too fast. You need to move slow if you are working on your fine motor skills, because you need to train them And the more you practice, the better they will respond. So the quality of your lines will be more and more like it will be higher, and also they will be more intentional because you can truly control the movement of the hands and direction the lines exactly where you need them and you want them to be and to go. This is the moment when we are gonna focus on our breathing because we need truly to be patient and stay extremely focused on what we are doing. Try to make your lines as close as possible. If you see that you have a too much, like a too big gap between the lines, you can always go back and refill those spaces and those gaps, right, with extra lines at the end. We want these tiny lines to be curvy, not perfect, still a very organic type of feeling. Let the designer speak to you. When you have to change the directions, let it happen in a natural way. Sometimes you will go in a direction, sometimes in another. Be spontaneous and let the space that you created and the shapes that you created in your paper guide you. If you are connected with your design and focus on what you're doing and you're not distracted by anything else, you will be able to make these decisions effortless. If you need to take a break because your hand is hurting, take a break, shake it off, and then take a deep breath and restart. In this phase of the design is when we learn commitment. So we want to finish what we start. Engagement, we want to truly embrace every step of this practice. Mental focus, we're going to truly focus on what our hands is doing on the paper with no other distractions. And perseverance, even though these steps might be a little tedious, means annoying, right, and heavy, mostly if you're a young artist, if you're a student, right, or maybe if you struggle a little bit with fine motor skills. I do understand that these steps in the design will challenge you. This is when you are resilient and you tell yourself, I am doing it, I can do it, and I can do it, and then I will keep working until the very end. We enjoy this moment of quiet and make sure to breathe deeply. The more you curve these lines, toward the edge of the gaps, the more like optical illusion you will have of something that is a little like coming up from the surface. And we are going to start to see the differences between the negative space, which is the gap, and the positive space, which are the biomorphic shapes, right? So we create this little optical illusion. The design start to get some movement, right, and rhythm. You will see it clearly when you are a little more than halfway done with those lines, and it will be clearer to you. One little steps over here. And it's done. Now, if you're still working on this spot, take your time, pause the video, finish these lines. If you think that there is too much of a gap, go and kind of create other extra line inside. And once you're done, we're gonna start to create a pattern opposite inside a shape. So I'm gonna use instead straight line. Well, not really like, you know, random. Maybe I can cross. So I'm going to kind of find a way to, they don't have to be perfect. As you see, I'm not using anything, but I create like this straight line that will intersect, and I bring them all the way across this imaginary fantastic moon that we create. I don't want this line to be too close, so as you notice, I'm leaving gap pretty big, and I'm, you know, intersect them in different directions. Even here, you don't have to copy exactly the line that I do, the lines that I do, just be spontaneous. You just using vertical, horizontal, or diagonal lines to create a pattern in these biomorphic shapes. Okay, the pattern can be as busy or not busy, like depending on what you want. Probably I'm going to intersect one more over here, coming from here, going here, 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 here. And one more coming down this way. Now, when the lines intersect, we are going to kind of enhance, so bring some focus into the intersection by creating these tiny little diamond shapes. That create that spider web type of patterns and effect. Once again, we do our best to connect these lines like right and create this diamond shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, and then you fill with the color like with the black inside. Sometimes you can also retrace over the lines if you think that the corners of these diamond shapes do not match the lines that you previously traced. So now we're going around and check if we got them all. Probably I would like to, because I don't see many over here, so I'm going to add the one line. This is as the critical thinking skills that we were talking before, right? If I want to create the design a little busier and I want to have a little more consistency, what should I do and what should I add? So I look at the design and I decided that I wanted to add another lines that would allow me multiple intersections between the other lines and a better result for my pattern. Perfect. And now we have all of them in here. Beautiful. And we are going to do some patterns over like around it. And probably I will do some tiny little dots on the lightest blue. I will leave the dark blues as they are because you cannot truly see a pattern since the color is so close to the black, because it is truly dark. So I will just use these spontaneous dots. We are not putting them geometrically perfect. We are not like focusing on the perfect distances and gaps between them. We just fill this space spontaneously. Do not lose control of the dot, which means don't do them too quickly, because at one point you will lose control of your hands and you won't be able to fill the space the way that you want and the way that needs to be filled, like entirely. You might have some overlapping in the dots, which is something that we don't want. So just find yourself, once again, a nice, beautiful pace that is not too fast and not too slow. Dots is another pattern that invite us to be patient, to persevere, not to skip ahead. If you need to take a break from your dots, take a break. This is really truly testing my patience here, for example. And getting this bouncy movement from the paper, which is nice, like I said, it's supporting the rhythm and the pace that I chose for my dot. And I decided to have these dots pretty close to each other, so I need to do really hundreds of them, right? Stay there, keep the focus. If you need to take a break, shake your hand, oh sorry, and our design is done. If you want to add more patterns on the back, you can do it. For example, here when I have my medium blue, so I will still be able to see the black of my markers, I'm adding instead just lines that follow the directions, like I'm thinking about the universe and the connection between all of these, you know, planets and corps and stars, right? Alignments and implied lines, which means that there are lines that don't truly exist, that we cannot see, but they can connect the stars in constellations, right? So I'm going to do it here, I'm going to do them here. So like I'm using lines to symbolize the complexity of our universe, the complexity of all the intersections between the stars that create a constellation. And if you think about a constellation, we don't truly see the lines, they are implied lines that connect a star to another. So by the use of lines and space, we can abstract concept and we can, you know, represent what we see around us in an original way. So the design is all done. I hope that you get all the benefit that I gained from this design, and I see you soon for more. Ciao.